Alright, so I'm going to start to give you guys some information with regards to how these inlets are performing. I haven't really pushed it. I'm just doing my initial driving, daily driving it. So if you're under 10% throttle in normal drive mode, things feel as they usually are, just normal acceleration. If you start to dip into it ever so slightly, beyond 10%, you start to notice a difference. The car actually feels, it just feels like the engine's doing less work. Kind of feels more effortless. You hear more things happening, but at the same time it just feels like the engine's having an easier time breathing, if that makes sense. From what I've been told, your wastegate duty cycle actually improves quite a bit when you have inlets, because the intake is much less restricted and therefore the turbos have to do less work to hit target boost. But so far, the way I've modded my car, I like it to feel smooth, comfortable, and stock when you're in drive mode and just driving normally. And only when you're in the mood to go quick, I want it to feel fast. It's not very loud. Kind of just sounds like a stock car, so you wouldn't really know that anything's really being done to the car. But all in all, thus far, with just the inlets installed, driving, you know, the way you drive 90% of the time with just 10% throttle feels as it would stock. What surprised me was as soon as you put it into sport mode, you can't even get on, even 10% throttle is very noticeable. You just can't get around how the car just breathes. And if you leave it in sport, all you're going to hear is spooling and your blow off. Or your, in my case, I have stock diverter valves that are dumping back into the intake, but since it's so close to the actual cone filter, you hear it as if it was venting the atmosphere. I know that's popular for a lot of people just to get DCIs because it kind of sounds like you get a blow-off valve out of the deal. But I'll give you like a 15% tip-in. I was just like barely getting on it. You can't avoid it. You're just building boost way too easy. And kind of dropped a gear there since I probably did about 40% throttle. If I were to hold it in manual mode in third gear and do a slight tip in, very loud. It's almost obnoxious. The spooling sound, I didn't expect this actually. I heard that if you get passenger side inlets, it's crazy and it's, you know, very loud. But even with driver's side inlets, the noise that's coming through, the spooling noise, just the turbo noises in general, got to be at least 30 to 40% louder than stock, or than how the car was set up with stock inlets. But in sport mode, it's very, very fun. It's night and day almost. I didn't expect that. I would say, compared to running a stock tune versus like a stage 1 tune or like a mild tune, it kind of feels like that. It feels like I've put another tune on the car and I went up a stage. Okay, I'll close this window so you can hear me a little better. So it's as if I've increased my boost or something along those lines. You feel it considerably. It kind of transforms the behavior of the car. It feels like it's got bigger turbos on it. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it. it kind of feels like you have the same tune, but you're running bigger turbos. Because I've experienced that before, where I've taken a car and just put a larger modified turbo. So I can feel like at least 30, 40 foot-pounds of torque. It has to be. My butt dyno, of course, it's always off. Everybody's is always off. It always feels better than it is, but. And I haven't even gone to redline yet because I don't know how my tune's going to respond, if I'm going to get an overboost, if I have to reset adaptations, etc. It almost feels like I'm abusing my stock blow-off valves, the way they sound, but it is very nice. So, way more noticeable than when I put my intercooler on, like big time. And I don't know what the car felt like with the stock downpipes, because I bought it with downpipes installed. But I would say the downpipes, I've heard they add quite a bit of horsepower. So I wonder how it would compare to downpipes. I couldn't really comment on that, but I heard that's really noticeable. But it feels like you're doing the car a favor, actually. It feels like you're making things easier on the car. The engine seems more happy. The turbos seem like they're not fighting to spool. It just feels like it's in good shape. Good for the car. So even though this is a pain to install, it's not terrible. From reading forums and whatnot, it seemed like it'd be a lot worse than it actually was, you know. But if you want to do this and keep your sanity, just set aside a weekend, do the front inlet, and drop your downpipes on the first day, and then either take a break, a couple hours, come back, and then go after the rear inlet. The majority of the work is the rear inlet, as you would expect, considering how tight it is back there. But the benefits are well worth it. For $200 and something, you're kind of transforming the behavior of the car. Definitely worth it. It's making the most of the stock turbos. So right now I'm running MHD Stage 2 Plus with factory side, driver side inlets, stock turbos, downpipes, intercooler, and dual cone intakes. The car's quiet and OEM feeling when you want it to be, but then when you want to play, it's very quick. And the whole point of a 335i, what makes it fun with the stock turbos is the torque down low. And running these inlets actually just accentuates the torque. Going under a bridge here. See if we can get an echo off the wall for the spooling. First time I actually pushed it. It's pretty crazy. Jeez. Definitely pretty intense. Huge difference. That's how it sounds, just partial throttle driving along. You can kind of hear it. Normally you could avoid hearing the turbos at all with just a partial throttle situation, like literally have it not make any spooling sounds, but that's not possible anymore. Alright, so I'm going to do some data logging so we can actually capture how much power the car is going to be making now with the inlets. I've been waiting for it to be a little cooler out, it's a little past midnight, and it's been quite warm here in Houston. It's the end of January, but it's nighttime and 60 degrees and holding, so I'm not going to be able to improve on this very much. So we're talking about a 30-degree temperature difference from when I tested the car previously. But it is quite humid out. It's actually kind of muggy. So let's see what kind of difference it makes, but I'm going to be doing the pull shortly. To give you guys an idea of what to expect, just in earshot with the window open a little bit. Just I'm in sport mode. It's going to tip in like 30% at 2000 RPM. So it sounds pretty cool. Now we're going to go interpret that data that I just gathered via MHD. Alright, I'm back on my computer now. I'm about to upload that CSV file. Let's see what we got. So as I mentioned already, it was much cooler when I tested with my stock inlets. But anyway, to give you an idea here, let's take a target PSI, or let's go to a target RPM. 5500 RPM, 15.4 PSI. At 5500 RPM, I'm at around 16 PSI. So it looks like here and there, like 6600 RPM, I'm at 12 PSI. 6600 RPM here, I'm like 11. That's about half a PSI higher with just the aftermarket inlets. So now let's punch this into Virtual Dyno to see what kind of difference we got. Alright, so we got our numbers. Here is the blue is inlets, and the red is the stock inlets. So you can see here, for instance, we picked up, we're at 448 wheel torque, up from 413, so that's 35 wheel torque. And horsepower wise, we're at 387 wheel, up from 368, which would mean 19 wheel horsepower of an increase. So peak RPM before, as you can see, was 413. It bumped up to 448. Peak horsepower previously peaked out at 5700 RPM, and then it started to slowly taper. It's kind of crossing over here, like for instance 371 at around 5500 RPM. Horsepower area under the curve here, very good. 375 versus 344, so 4300 RPM, 344 horsepower jumps up to 375. So you're picking up, you really feel that. So like at points it's 30 wheel horsepower, but overall your peak goes up because it doesn't taper off and it actually continues to climb toward red line. So the more you rev it out, you don't have your power fade off or die off as much. It actually kind of peaks up a bit. This is conditions were quite different. 30 degrees warmer today and like 100% humidity versus a cold dry night when I first did this. So I bet you these numbers would be even better, but you know, 35 wheel torque, 19 wheel horsepower peak, and as much as yeah, the peak torque difference is around 35 here. The peak horsepower difference is around 30 wheel here. This really matters. This really helps your car pick up a lot faster. It makes it more fun. It really rips down low. Big jumps here, and even at red line, big jumps there. Relatively level mid-range. So you get a really good thrust down low, and it feels similar. I could attest for that. It feels similar in the mid, like 5,000, 5,500 RPM, and then it kind of has a bit more pull right at red line. But this is where your car's going to feel faster. 35 wheel torque, 30 wheel horsepower for a big chunk of this graph, from like where it matters, 4,000 RPM up to about 5,000. That area, you get a big shove, and it makes the car a lot more fun and very torquey. Like if any car, like this car is not very heavy, it's making 450 wheel torque. That's going to be fun. You know, this software isn't perfect. You know, put it on a real dyno and things may be different. I wish I could have had it where the conditions were identical, but I wanted to get this video out. I think this would have been more like 450 something torque and 390 wheel horsepower, 390 and change if it was exactly the same conditions, just as cold. But either way, this demonstrates that these inlets are one of the best bangs for your buck. This is what matters here, big time. 200 bucks, 35 wheel torque and 30 wheel horsepower for a good 1,000 RPM. That makes the car feel very, very different. No matter what car you're driving, you'll feel 30 wheel horsepower usually. So that's like around 40, almost 40 crank horsepower and like 45 crank torque. That's a big difference. And my tune isn't optimized for this. I haven't had any overboost codes or anything out of the ordinary. I'm going to monitor my AFR just to see if it seems safe, and we'll conclude. Actually, I never really paid attention to this, but here are my AFRs. They're actually leaner at points. It was actually a bit leaner before. 11.7 versus, let's see here. I think it's because it was a lot muggier, wet, and warmer. So there's technically less air. But all in all, my AFRs, they're not perfectly tuned. Pretty safe though. We're well under 12. I think, at least. I think that's safe. If anybody thinks that's not safe, please comment and let me know. I may get a tune to tweak this a bit. But we're looking at boost. Boost is a bit higher. This is the boost. After and before. So I'm making more boost, but not enough to have an overboost situation. And my AFRs are level, if anything, a little richer. And not perfectly tuned, but safe. So yeah, I would say for the money, get them. It's not like it's the best mod to do first, because you need supporting mods for this to all work out. You'll need the stage 2 plus tune with more boost being targeted up high to really benefit. You'll need, so I would say if you're gonna do, I think we should go in this order. DCIs as your first mod, maybe 15 crank horsepower in a perfect world if you're not getting heat soak, etc. Do your downpipes. I heard they're 20 to 30 wheel, maybe more. And then make sure you do your intercooler, and then you can bump from a stage 1 to a stage 2 tune. And next mod definitely would be inlets. And then I think after this, if you want to get bang for your buck, outlets aren't necessarily going to be the way to go, or hybrid turbos, etc. Think about E85 mixtures. But all in all, I would say on a really good day, I'd probably have like 400 wheel, 460 torque, and you know, I got 180 something thousand miles on my car. So in your car, you could expect even more potentially. But every mod that I've done has been a supporting mod thus far. The inlets seem to make the engine breathe easier, less wastegate duty cycle, and the only downside really is the difficulty to install. It's not like it's a couple-hour job and you pick up crazy horsepower. You got to devote a good weekend or a few hours each day, 2-3 hours each day to get this done properly. If you're not used to doing this kind of work, maybe set aside 6-7 hours a day, however crazy that sounds. But you know, it can be a little difficult. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm happy with the results. I think it's a big bang for your buck, and I'm most impressed with right here. You feel that it's usable everyday power and torque. Great bang for your buck. Highly recommended. So thanks for watching and good luck.